welcome to Prime Property, your weekly real estate reckoner. I'm Nayantara Rai and this is what we have on the show today. The real estate regulator bill may miss its date with the upcoming monsoon session of Parliament. The good news is it may carry more punch, from imprisonment of builders to holding the centre and state governments accountable. Here's to women power. A Housing.com survey shows women are in the driving seat in decision-making for purchasing and renting properties. Down south, we analyse how villas are doing in Chennai and assess the impact of Bengaluru's upcoming metro on property prices. 10 years and counting, and the wait for a real estate regulator may just get longer. We understand the Real Estate Regulation and Development Bill 2013 may not be tabled in the upcoming session of Parliament as is being widely expected. This, as the 21-member Select Committee of the Rajya Sabha, tasked with examining that bill, may need more time to make recommendations for a more balanced bill. It will be meeting next week, that's the 5th and 6th of July, to study each and every clause in detail. It does seem this Select Committee wants to give more teeth to the regulator, and that is good news for consumers. It may just recommend jail for unscrupulous builders. Prime Property learns many members of this committee are of the view that prosecution and imprisonment must be added in most cases where builders fail to discharge their duties and functions. A government source tells us this is essential to check fly-by-night operators, scamsters, and those developers running Ponzi schemes. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of suggestions it has received from the public, the Rajya Sabha panel now seems to be of the view that financial penalties alone will not deter builders from unscrupulous practices. As of now, the bill recommends financial penalties for various offences, but imprisonment for up to 3 years only when builders repeatedly fail to register their projects with the regulatory authority. What's more, this Rajya Sabha committee feels it was not correct for the original bill to have held the centre, state governments and civic bodies as not accountable. Sources say the opinion emerging within the committee is that both builders and home buyers should not pay for the sins of those in power. We at Prime Property have been repeatedly saying the real estate regulator will be a damn squib if the centre and the various state departments are not held accountable and brought within its ambit. Otherwise, there will be no onus on government departments to approve projects on time. Not doing so would also not break the alleged Babu Builder nexus. Sources in this committee say the provision requiring builders to keep 50% of the customer advance in an escrow account may also be revised. This lock-in was envisaged to prevent builders from diverting funds to other projects and land acquisition. The lock-in was introduced to ensure builders would have enough money to complete projects and not cite lack of finances at a later stage. Sources say the Rajya Sabha committee believes that while a 50% lock-in sounds good on paper, in reality it could also cost the consumer a lot more. It may end up being inflationary. It's likely to result in builders hiking prices to partially make up for the funds they can't access, as well as any foreseeable loss of interest. We need clarity on this inflationary angle. Builders have also told this committee that 50 to 60% of the project cost in big cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru is for the purchase of land. Therefore, the lock-in amount won't work in such cases. So maybe we're going to see a different kind of a lock-in for big cities and small cities in the final bill that's going to be tabled in Parliament, whenever that is. Real estate is a male-dominated industry. Is that about to change? Certainly, if you go by the survey that's been carried out by Housing.com, more than 95% women actively participate in home buying and renting decisions. 30% women are the lead decision makers in their families, and 50% women take joint decision with other family members. All of this, according to the survey that was carried out by Housing.com in 7 cities, that's Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune and Kolkata. The study also revealed women in the age groups of 18 to 34 years are the most active and involved in realty decisions.
Well, you know, Nayantara, recently we actually went into a research with Google Analytics and some Facebook data as well, and something of our own. In the top 7 cities, which includes Mumbai, Delhi, Pune, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata and Hyderabad. And what we found was that, in summary, women have now become greater participants in the housing, purchase or renting process. whether it is, for a sole decision-making purpose or as a joint decision-makers. They are definitely participating more and more in housing processes, housing decision-making, and that's something which we have sort of unearthed in summary.
Okay, so now let's get down to specifics. What are the kind of trends you've noticed in this survey?
Yeah, so, I can give you some interesting statistics. First of all, in the lower age or the younger age segments, women are participating much higher. So, for example, in the age group of 25 to 34, it is about 32% participation. In a slightly lower age group, which is 18 to 24 age group, it is again something which is close to 25%. That's pretty encouraging and a sort of new statistic. There's another very interesting thing that in the case of PG, paying guest accommodation and renting accommodation, women participation has actually climbed very significantly. So it's going upwards of 40% or so. So there are several other things that we came across. Another interesting stat is in terms of deciding the mode of payment, women participation is fairly high in each of these places. Well, there are, vagaries based on geographies, based on certain economic conditions. But if you look at the overall thing in a macro manner, then that is how it emerges. And that is something extremely positive. And maybe going forward, this gives not just us, but the whole industry an advantage in terms of how they plan to target their target audiences or how they plan their strategies, all of that. So I believe this is something which is a great discovery at this point in time.
And any preliminary data to tell us which city is leading when it comes to women's participation in real estate?
Yes, so there are some preliminary indications there, if not, down to the final mile. But in those economies where the dependence on, the tech industries, or I would say the new economy or sunrise industries is higher, in those places it is very obvious that women have a much greater participation, and primarily as, sole decision makers, whether it is for renting, whether it's for buying, or even for paying guest accommodations. So tech-led economies or geographies which are heavy on tech-led economies, there you have a significantly greater participation. I think we will have to drill down to the final details before we can actually pinpoint at numbers, but there is a very obvious, very palpable, clear indication in those economies, Nayantara.
So you're not going to tell me which is the city which is seeing the highest women's participation?
Yeah, so you could, very safely assume that something like Bangalore shows this trend very clearly. There is one caveat that one needs to remember, that when we measure a particular section of population, which is, a gender-based segmentation, we also need to carefully analyze it for where this demand is originating and where is it going, whether it is coming from people who are single or married, whether it is coming from people who are in a certain profession or slightly different professions. So just basing them on geographies could be misleading, although there are indications, like I said, in Bangalore, the percentages could be higher. But one has to drill down to final details, and that process, I think, will emerge in due course. The results of that process will emerge. And
does this survey show the status of these women which are in the driving seat? Are they single? Are they married?
Well, in a very preliminary manner, a lot of these women happen to be those that are in the younger age group, like I said earlier, 35 or below. A significant number of them are actually as yet single. So these are very preliminary, indications that we have. I think if we wait a little while, then there'll be a far more finer detail that will emerge.
So given this new trend, what should marketers and developers do? Clearly, there's a new opportunity that's out there now.
Absolutely, and that's a great question, Nayantara. I think for the supply side or even the enabling side, which is, the finance houses and other enabling agencies, this is a great conclusion to have, or a great first step in the conclusion to have. The supply side could very well orient itself towards developing its products which are going to cater to the needs of such women or such particular segment of the population very specifically. It's not very easy to define what it should be, but once you know that your target segment lies in a particular geography or lies in a particular bracket of age group or income group, you can very well design products not just looking at their present, but how they might actually emerge in future. So there is a great number of things that could be done, and like I said, not just by the supply side, that is the developers, but also by the financing institutions, home loan institutions. They all could have many conclusions to take from here.
That's right, a clear opportunity for banks, especially while giving out home loans. What about policy makers? We've seen the Prime Minister in the Housing for All scheme say that the first preference for registering properties must be for the female member of the household. What else can policy makers do?
Absolutely, Nandara. The policy environment has been sensitive to this, and I would rather not stop here. I'd go much further. If you look at the basic level, even Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is actually working towards enabling women more and more, right from the time of their birth. So I think the policy environment is moving there. We could always debate the pace of policy and its implementation, but I'm pretty positive that the policy environment has been supportive and looks quite alive to the situation.
So let's take that up more. What else can the government do to empower women to make sure that they can actually buy a house?
Well, there are several things, and some of them are already they've started to germinate. But to provide, a more favorable environment for women to step into independent living and working, that's important. On the financial or the fiscal side, I think the tax environment could also become a little more viable to encourage women to have ownership. It's already there in certain places. If the property is owned in women's name, then the title and the taxation is slightly different. But I think this needs to be made a little more universal. It has to go deeper down into the system, and not just for only the lower segment or only specific segments in the demand, but across the board. That might help a lot, actually.
Well, here's to women power. On that note, let's slip into a short break. On the other side, we're going to head down south to Chennai and check out if villas there are a good buying opportunity. Stay tuned.